everybody, and welcome to another episode of Naturally Adventurous.
Hi, folks.
My name is Charlie Hesse. I'm joined by my good friend Ken Behrens.
Hi, folks.
In Madagascar. I'm in Thailand, and we are Naturally Adventurous. We said last week that we were going to do another top 10 mammal sightings episode, but we're going back on our word there. And instead, we're going to have a bit more of a freestyle episode, just chatting about some of the stuff we've been up to recently. Before we get into that, there's a couple of things we want to just tell everybody. One, I mentioned on the last episode that I am doing a live birding event together with Swarovski on Sunday. The time will be, for Thailand, it's 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. In the UK, that's going to be 8 a.m. in the morning, and Eastern Standard Time in the States will be 3 a.m. So you can either stay up late or wake up early, or just catch it at the same link that we'll put on the episode notes. You should be able to click on it later on and watch it later on. But we have a whole bunch of birders. There's going to be two sessions, actually. One is from Asia through Africa and Europe. That's one. And then another one will be North and South America, because the time zones are totally different. So the Asian, or the Old World one, will be starting in Asia. So there'll be me, and there'll be people from India, Philippines, China, a lot of cool places. And we're going to have scopes set up showing people some interesting birds that we've got staked out. And then we're going to sort of transition to Africa and finally to Europe. So there should be a whole bunch of interesting birds that you can see in real time. So it should be quite interesting.
I'm curious what you're planning to do. I'm not real familiar with the birding around Chiang Mai.
You know, there's different things. Some of the people, because this is the second time they've done it. It's the first time that I'm doing it. But a lot of the people last time, they said, oh, let's go for a really amazing bird. And then they either couldn't find it or it wasn't a good view. So I'm playing it safe. I'm going to a place with a lot of common birds, and I'm just going to make sure that I've actually got something to show people.
Yep.
So I'm going to go... So I live in a place called Chiang Mai in the north of Thailand. We have some forest sites and some mountains nearby, but, you know, scoping stuff, as most people will know, in the forest is not the easiest. So I'm going to be in a sort of mixed agricultural area. There's actually a Chiang Mai University in the city, and they have a campus sort of in the suburbs that has a lot of... It's like a agricultural research station. So they have a lot of rice fields, little fish ponds, and it's full of birds. It's fantastic. It's my regular birding patch, so I know it really well. I've actually been going there quite a bit recently with my son. So that's been a lot of fun. That's what I was going to tell you about, what I've been up to recently. So my son's at school now. During the summer holidays, we just went birding every day, but now it's just weekends, and I'll usually go on eBird and see what's around and see what lifers I can get him. So I usually try and get him one or two lifers every week. So he's well over 500 species now at 8 years old. So he's doing pretty well.
It's so funny to me that kids often seem to grasp this like competitive aspect of birding, the listing side of things, right away. I mean, I was certainly that way in my early birding. You know, I was starting to.
I think it takes a certain personality as well.
And there may also be a correlation between a certain kind of personality and people who get into birding in the first place. I suppose at least old school birding. You know, the whole photography thing is a whole other avenue into liking birds. But yeah, so he has the personality, I guess.
Yeah, he loves getting new things. He loves getting lifers. But I think it's just a lot of, you know, the way I am, just kind of rubbing off on him as well.
Poor lad.
Yeah. So no, we despite having been to this place a bunch of times, we went last weekend, and we managed to get him 4 lifers. Even though he'd been there like probably 10 times before, and one of them was beautiful. I'd like to tell you about was a little finch called the red avadavat, a little waxbill.
Is that how you say that?
And the
I
male,
always thought it was avadavat.
Yeah, who knows? you say avadavat, and I say avadavat. Yeah. I've actually no idea, but
No, it's a beautiful bird.
yeah,
It's stunning. It
it's a
kind of
gorgeous
an
bird.
Australian type of finch.
But also it's kind of similar looking to the African firefinches. But this male is just it's this bright red. It's like a cardinal, probably even brighter red than the cardinal, and it's just tiny little thing. And they're very secretive. They're like long grass, and you get anywhere near them, and they all sort of fly off. And they've got a quite a distinctive call and a kind of short tail, so you can tell what they are. But to get an actual good look at one is actually quite tricky. And I about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I saw one, and he missed it, and he was really pretty
Gripped.
annoyed.
Grip the boy.
Gripped. Yeah, I tried my best to get him on it, and he didn't really see it. And anyway, and then this time we were just going along on my little scooter, and we went down this little pathway, and I saw some birds on the ground ahead. There was like a little patch of bare ground, and I just pulled up very slowly. And you do any jerky motions or slam the brakes on, everything flies away. So I just very slowly came to a stop, and very kind of slow, deliberate movements. Just got off the bike, and he had his binoculars, and I just pointed it out to him, and he was like, "Oh wow!" It was just he was blown away by it, and I was so happy that he got on it and got a great view. So that was very cool. We had another couple of birds, these little grassland babblers, yellow-eyed babbler and chestnut-capped babbler.
I know
which are both
you're partial to babblers.
Oh, I love babblers. My email address used to be babblerboy. I think my eBird username is still babblerboy, but I'm crazy
Nice.
about babblers. But these ones, yeah, they're kind of really skulky. They like to skulk in the grass, and we got really good views of some of those as well. So it was a really and it's quite an exciting time at the moment. It's October. All the migrants are starting to come in. There's there's shrikes coming. Yeah, I mean, a lot of North Americans, the migration time, spring and fall are the big times. But in Thailand, we're the sort of the end of the road for a lot of migrants, and they come and they spend the whole winter here. So winter is really the peak time. It's the best birding time of the whole year, and then everything comes at a different time though. It's sort of late August. You're starting to get the shorebirds come in. And then we're getting brown shrikes and these little flycatchers coming in. So every weekend you go out and you see something else that's come in. So it's a very exciting time at the moment. Really enjoying my weekend birding with my son.
Nice to have a little spice of dynamism there, a little bit of a change. I mean, that's something that's almost completely lacking in Madagascar is migration. There's a bit of shorebird migration, and I've been doing a bit of that. And it's funny. I've been looking at a little flock of curlew sandpipers with new eyes, like feeling a bit envious of their mobility. The fact that they probably just flew in from the tundra of Russia or something.
There's no lockdown for them.
No,
There's no lockdown
no.
for birds.
They
They're just
no PCR test, and yeah.
So it's we're sort of in this in between phase where we're just starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel as guides. Some of the tropical birding starting to run some US tours, and we keep hearing about different countries opening up for tourism, but it's still for me, because Thailand's basically got rid of COVID, and now they don't want to let anyone in, and then if you go out you can't get back in. So it's like it's not we're sort of victims of our own success when it comes to sort of tourism. So yeah, I think you might be getting out and doing a bit of traveling before I do.
I think so. We haven't had such success controlling it here in Madagascar. There's been 16,000 domestic cases, and different dynamic.
Yeah, you're not gaining anything by keeping people out. You might as well just open the doors.
No, I mean that's how I look at it. Although they have been pretty slow about opening. I guess there's some concern about some new, slightly modified strain that's more virulent coming in, because the strain that's here seems to be quite mild, or something like that.
Yeah, but anyway, we're keeping ourselves entertained. I'm enjoying my weekend birding. Weekdays and weekends have never had much relevance on my life, because as a guide, you just, you often forget when the weekend is. But now, taking my son to school, whatever, and my wife goes to work, and then, the weekend, they have off, so you do different stuff. So yeah, finally the weekend has some meaning for me.
So by the way, my brother has become a listener. He's not a birder at all, but he's enjoying it. And he pointed out that we asked for feedback from people last week about what types of episodes or what format they prefer. And then we haven't really provided our email address publicly. So we will rectify that. And in this week's episode description, we'll put both of our email addresses. So if you want to get in touch with any kind of feedback, including what sort of thing you prefer, whether that's interviews or top 10 lists or more freestyle things or whatever, please let us know.
They can also search our names on Facebook. They'll come up, and you can friend us and send us messenger things too.
My brother also had a funny story. So he's got a newborn baby at home, and so he's not sleeping much. He's sleeping in sort of hour and a half slots at night, and
I remember that.
I guess he was listening to our podcast. He just put the baby to bed, and he sort of had an hour and a half, 2 hour slot to sleep before the baby woke up, and he was listening to our podcast, and I guess he was more tired than he realized, and he fell asleep quickly, and he woke out of this incredibly deep, almost like feverish, sleep-deprived sleep, just to hear these eerie, otherworldly sounds. And he's just like, what is going on? Where am I? What? And it turned out this was the episode we did with Phil, where our natural sound was the willow ptarmigan, which makes these weird, moaning calls. And he said it put him in this very weird.
Is this your brother, the sound engineer?
Yep.
So he's sort of quite into sounds and wondering what sounds are as well. Anyway, so he would have been very confused there.
Very confused. Yep.
Just lucky he didn't wake up halfway through the injury calls. That would have. Oh, that's pretty funny. It's actually very rewarding when I hear that people are regular listeners, when they're not by any means a birder or sometimes not even wildlife people. They're just enjoying our stories from a sort of human aspect. So that's really good. From the beginning, we didn't really want to pigeonhole ourselves too much as a birding podcast or whatever. So it's really nice that we have a broad range of listeners.
Yeah, we'd certainly be happy to hear from people, anybody, but people who are not specifically birders, if they find it interesting, or if there's aspects of it we could change that would make it more interesting. You and I are definitely birders, unashamed birders, but I just firmly believe that the natural world, and birds in particular, should hold appeal to anybody, and should also just be a gateway to lots of experiences that are interesting and relatable to anybody.
Yep. Oh, and but maybe we can also make another request for iTunes reviews, because that's definitely a way that we can sort of get the word out and attract more listeners. So if you listen on iTunes, please do leave us a review.
Well, you were talking about weekends and doing a bit of local birding. I have, since the start of this pandemic, the farthest I've been from home is about 7 miles, 10 kilometers.
Really?
Yeah, there's just very few places to go here. There's no domestic flights. There's virtually no roads. And then the national parks were closed. So, pretty much anywhere I want to go is a national park. But the national parks finally opened up, and I was quite
wonderful
excited about this. There's a great national park here, which is only about 45 minutes from my house, called Amber Mountain National Park. This isolated mountain covered in rainforest.
Montagne
d'Ombre. It really is amazing, Charlie. I mean, whenever you get here, you're gonna love it. Like, it's some of the most beautiful rainforest I've seen in Madagascar.
Really?
It's really a special place. I mean, it has a bunch of endemic reptiles just to the mountain. It has several endemic lemurs, and crested ibis is more common here than anywhere else I've seen in Madagascar.
Really?
It's just, they're all over the place. And so anyhow, so we combined it. We did a little family trip, and we took my son up into the rainforest for the first time, and that was quite exciting. He loved it.
How old is he now? Can you remind
He's
us?
2.5 years old. So
right. So he's running around.
We spend our days kind of shouting at him, no, don't, that's dirty, I'll come back here. And, especially mom is not thrilled about him, like, rolling around in the dust and this sort of thing normally. But we got up to the rainforest, and it was actually pouring rain, and we just decided, we're just going to go for a walk anyways. And we went for a walk, and we went to a waterfall, and he was so thrilled. He just couldn't believe this was happening. And he couldn't believe that, like, mom was participating in this. And we're just, like, walking through the mud puddles, and it's somehow it's okay. And
it's okay now.
Yep. And he'd never seen a waterfall. He'd seen them in books and maybe in movies.
Wow.
And so we walked up to this huge, like, thundering waterfall, and he was just like, waterfall, waterfall. It was so exciting to see him kind of connecting the reality of that is actually a waterfall,
Yeah.
a real waterfall. So he loved it.
Wow.
And then my family left and went back to town because we didn't want to camp with the 2.5-year-old, not quite yet. But I stayed up there for
Right.
a couple days on my own, which was wonderful. It sort of drizzled rain the whole time, but after 7 months of being in sort of dry and dusty Diego, it was kind of what I needed just to be in the forest. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
such a different world. It's remarkable. You drive an hour and it's just like you're on another planet. But
So were you camping there?
yeah, camping. Yep. And
Is there a campsite, or you just went up into the forest and?
yeah, there's actually a really nice campsite that has
Really?
little pavilions and
Oh, nice.
has running water. It's even
Wow,
sort of
luxury.
showers. Yeah, luxury. And it's in need of a bit of maintenance, and it's like almost nobody's been up there for a year, But yeah, it's holding together so far. But it's just wonderful. You're just in the heart of this beautiful, lush forest, and there's 3 waterfalls within sort of 15 minutes walk. Lots of birds, lemurs around. The ring-tailed Vonsira or mongoose often comes into the camp, and sort of
Really?
begs for
Wow.
scraps.
Oh, they're such a beautiful animal. Those. It's
Beautiful.
like a rusty red and these beautiful banded red and black tail. It's just gorgeous.
Cute little face, like pointy nose and big ears. Yeah, they are. It's one of these animals that people don't even know about before they come to Madagascar, and they see it and they're just blown away. And the ones in northern Madagascar are actually the most beautiful ones. They're like this,
Really?
yeah, this rich red. They're far redder than the ones elsewhere on the island. Yeah, so
You get any nocturnal lemurs and stuff there?
yeah, there's a couple endemics. There's Amber Mountain mouse lemur, and there's Amber Mountain dwarf lemur, and Amber Mountain fork-marked lemur. So, of those, I had the dwarf around the campsite. Probably just emerged.
Right.
They estivate during the dry season, the dry cool season. So he probably just came out of his hole. So it's pretty exciting. I woke up the first morning there, and it's kind of drizzling rain. It's a bit cold. And as you know, as a birder, I'm just totally attuned to bird vocalizations like you. I can't even turn that off. And Madagascar is a place that I know so well that I just know every single peep, every single vocalization out of every single bird. But I woke up, I'm lying there in my tent, and I'm hearing a bird singing, and I don't know what it is. I was just absolutely baffled. I couldn't believe this was happening. And so I sort of rolled out of my sleeping bag, and I went and grabbed my binoculars and my recording gear, and I chased this bird down, and it turns out it was a spectacled tetraka. It's a green bull-like, very plain, greenish and gray bird, which you know well. But
Yep.
they're
Endemic family.
right, endemic family to Madagascar, and then within the spectacled tetraka, there's an endemic subspecies on Amber Mountain that's completely different looking from the ones elsewhere.
Wow.
And so this bird was singing away with this very distinctive and obvious song that, as far as I know, is completely undescribed. I've just looked through the literature, didn't find any mention of this song whatsoever. So I managed to get recordings of it. I even got video of the bird singing. And so it was really exciting for me just to be a vocalization I never heard is exciting in its own right, but then the fact that this is maybe unknown to science, and it may actually be a pretty interesting piece of the puzzle in terms of demonstrating that this is actually a good species, rather than a subspecies. So it may well be the Amber Mountain tetraka, which, hopefully will inspire a few more birders to come up here.
If things there have speciated, if a whole bunch of mammals have speciated there, then it's kind of strange to think that the birds haven't speciated to the same extent, But it's funny how in Madagascar you get all these little, almost every national park you go to has got its own little suite of lemurs. And I was actually looking at your book today just before the episode, and there's different groups. There's mouse lemurs, there's sportive lemurs, there's true lemurs, and then for each group, Ken made like a little table, and it says, "What am I seeing here?" or something like that. And then you've got the national parks all listed, the most popular ones, with the name of that particular group there. So, and I was looking at Amber Mountain and Ankarana and Marojeji, all those northern places that I haven't been to, and they're all like got their own little set of species.
There's something strange in Madagascar. The birds are fairly homogeneous, certainly within the rainforest zone, and actually, there's a lot of birds, as you know, that are found in all three of the forest zones, from the spiny forest, which is like
Yeah,
semi-desert, all the way into the humid rainforest, which is weird. It's I've never heard a really good explanation for why there aren't more highly localized bird endemics, whereas at the same time you have tons of localized lemurs, tons of localized reptiles and amphibians and butterflies, and it's very odd to me.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that was my morning. My morning up there started with a bang. It was pretty exciting. I mean, it was an esoteric joy, I suppose. Little gray bird making a not very spectacular song, but yeah, I did. I ended up doing.
It it's actually just related to that. There was a species that was discovered in Madagascar, where people heard this song, they didn't know what it was, and it turned out to be this bird called the cryptic warbler. This was back in what late '90s, something like that, '97 or
Yep,
around the
late '90s.
yeah, and yeah, the cryptic warbler, and it looks very much like any some of these other little plain warbler things, but it's got a very distinct song. So yeah,
Yeah, I believe that was Dan Lane who came to Madagascar. He's sort of a South American birder and ornithologist. So, but he brought this focus on vocalizations that he had from the neotropics to Madagascar, where
yeah,
there had been a different approach to ornithology, and people hadn't paid that much attention to vocalizations. And during I think it was his first time here, he found two new species, which was the cryptic warbler and the red-shouldered vanga, which is a pretty incredible
wow.
story.
Dan's amazing. He's really incredible birder.
So during my time up on the mountain, I did something I've never done before, and I suspect you also have never done this. I went basically twitching a plant. I spent a whole day to see a plant. So
I think you might be right.
they're
Oh, maybe one. Maybe one.
I plants are wonderful. I actually in
Yeah.
my early days as sort of a birder and a naturalist, I spent years kind of obsessed with wildflowers, but I
Really?
never went in search of one in this. It was always kind of incidental. But yeah, so there's 6 baobabs that are endemic to Madagascar,
Ah,
and
yes.
I've seen, well, until this trip I'd seen 5 of them. There's one that I still hadn't seen, which is it's this very localized baobab that's found. It's in this transitional forest from sort of rainforest to semi-deciduous dry forest. So it's in this very, very precise niche, and it's really only in Amber Mountain. There's a tiny population, and then there's a slightly larger population in Ankarana, just to the south. Kind of the same zone, and none of these are anywhere near the well established path. They're not near roads.
Yeah.
You basically have to make a mission out of it to go see this baobab, and I'd never done it, so I decided that it was the time to go see this baobab. And
Is this a Diego Suarez baobab?
no,
Or
that one's easily seen next to the road.
is it?
This is called
Learn
Adansonia
from 10
perrieri,
locations.
extremely localized to just tiny corners of northern Madagascar.
You know what Australians call baobabs?
Now, I gotta know.
Baobabs.
Baobs.
Baobabs. You seen a baobab?
Baobab. Good lord. Apparently the Australian baobab is virtually indistinguishable genetically from the African
Is
Adansonia
it really?
digitata. Yeah. So I for a long time this is something I'd wanted to see. So it was basically a full day trek to see this thing. Sort of going 1,000 feet down the mountain to get into this transitional zone, and then back up
Wow.
again. Well worth it. It was a great hike. Of course, we saw some great things along the way. We saw a giant leaf-tailed gecko, which is just
Oh, nice.
ridiculously big. Sort
Fimbriata.
of. No, it's a different. It's a giganteus.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
It's even bigger than Fimbriatus. It's this
Really?
huge. I'll put some photos in the
Yeah.
photo gallery for this episode, but it's just a magnificent, huge gecko that sort of flattens itself onto a tree to hide itself during the day. Saw a few lemurs. It was a little bit concerning because we saw along the way there was a bunch of palisander trees that had been cut, and I think this had happened just since the pandemic, and there was nobody in there, nobody's watching what's going on. People are also probably desperate for money to,
Yeah.
and I mean, we saw probably 40 palisander trees just recently cut. So that's quite concerning. Because I think oftentimes it starts with one tree, and then people start cutting the next most valuable tree, and then it's this
Yeah.
cascading thing, and then it's like, well, let's make some charcoal, and that was concerning and a bit sad, but we finally made
It
our
actually
way.
says there's on Wikipedia at least, it says that there's probably only 250 mature trees of this species.
That sounds right.
Individuals.
Yep, I was going to guess a
Yeah.
couple hundred.
In,
So there's actually
in,
only
in 10
six.
locations.
There's only 6 individuals in Amber Mountain National Park. So that's a real
Wow.
weird, like, isolated population. Like, how did it get there from? Because it's actually up on the north side of the mountain, whereas all the others are scattered around sort of the south side of Amber Mountain. So there's a theory that these huge extinct lemurs, sometimes called gorilla lemurs, were the main pollinators of baobabs. So I'm just imagining, some gorilla lemur, like with a baobab fruit under its arm, like walking up to the north side of the mountain and dropping it there or something. That's
Yeah.
conjecture, but yeah, there's this tiny little isolated population there. So yeah, we walked all morning, finally got to a place where you could see the forest was changing. It wasn't full-on rainforest anymore. It was this kind of semi-deciduous forest, much more open with a lot of leaf litter. And the whole morning I was with a local guide called Angeluc. He's a real character, and just an incredible repository of information about the forest. His grandfather was like an herbal medicine expert. He knew the name of every single tree in the forest in Malagasy.
Really?
And so he kind of inherited that, and then he studied with botanists and herpetologists, and so it's just a pleasure to spend time with this guy. So I was just picking his brain the whole morning about trees, because I've been doing iNaturalist and trying to identify trees and other plants. So I was sort of in the zone on trees, and but the baobab still caught me off guard, because we're walking along, and suddenly through the undergrowth, I see this enormous trunk of a tree, and I was just like, what is that? I was going to ask Angeluc, and then I realized, oh yeah, that's actually what we're here to see. That's we just walked 4 hours to see this baobab. That's the baobab. It was.
It's quite different looking than some other. At least the pictures that I'm looking at on the internet now, it kind of branching lower down, and it's not a sort of, straight trunk to some of the other ones.
That's interesting. I would have said the opposite from the couple specimens I
Really?
saw. That it has a really tall trunk without any side branches. So,
Okay,
but
maybe a bit
it's
of,
just a couple specimens that I saw down there. But
Yeah.
the ones I saw were just magnificent, just towering, with this kind of finely wavy bark, and just unbelievable girth of this tree. The biggest one down there is estimated at least 700 years old. I would guess it's actually more
Wow.
like 1,000. But it's basically growing out of these rocks that are just above a stream. So you can just imagine its roots like going down into the stream. Just kind of a naturally sacred, magnificent sort of place to be. When you're sitting there with a tree that's 500 to 1,000 years old, it's
Wow.
it's really just remarkable. And then the fact that I'd spent the whole day getting there, it certainly made it feel special. And so we really spent a couple hours around there, had lunch, and then hiked back to camp, back up the mountain. So it was it was my first ever sort
Wow.
of chase or pilgrimage to see a plant, but it was well worth it.
One of the rarest plants in the world, I guess. One of the,
It must be.
rarest trees in the
I mean,
world.
how many plants can there be that there's only like 200 or 300 individuals in the world?
Yeah.
There can't be many. So Yeah,
That's amazing. Did they have any seed pods in them, or they just sort of? I guess they're still bare branched at the beginning of the
yeah.
growing
It
season.
was bare branch, but there were tons of fruits hanging, and then a few on the ground. So
And what do they look like?
they're kind of elongated, sort of
Okay.
rugby ball esque, but maybe a little bit more of a kidney shape, like a little bit. And they're yeah,
Okay.
like all baobab seeds, they have this hard shell, or it's actually the fruit, I guess. They have a hard shell, but then there's this fine fuzz on the shell. So it's actually like quite
Yeah,
nice to
like velvet.
caress.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And were there any broken open, or did you see any in there?
No, I didn't see the seeds, but the seeds are they're somewhat triangular, like big, like knobby kind of things. I've
One
actually
of my favorite things on a tour in Madagascar, because with a much more common baobab species, you often get the seed pods at the base of the tree, and you can just break them open, and they've got these seeds that are covered with a sort of like a dry sour powder, and you can and you can sort of just eat this kind of this dry stuff, and it's like really sour. I guess pretty high in vitamin C.
yeah, it's super healthy. Apparently, it's
Mm.
been heralded as one of these superfoods recently. Baobab fruit pulp.
But I normally just grab a whole bunch of it and stick it in my pocket and just sort of chew on it during the day. But I remember at the little reserve in the southwest that we go to, they've sort of chiseled little footholds, because some of the trunks are so high you couldn't sort of just grab onto the trunk and climb, But they've made these little footholds that they can just sort of climb their way up and collect the pods and then come back down.
Yeah, this actually reminds me of
Mm.
something interesting about this big baobab. There was an area at the bottom where people had sort of chiseled away a bit of the bark and the pulp because it's a medicinal plant. So, and they done it in a respectful way. It wasn't going to kill the plant, and it wasn't going to hurt it. But it was also interesting just to think of, generation after generation of Malagasy people living in that area, trekking up into the forest, knowing that tree was there, and coming and collecting a bit of baobab fiber, and then bringing it back to their village. People doing this for hundreds of years. It was just kind of it made me look at history in a different light, or like a different time scale. It's great to be in those places where things haven't changed that much for hundreds of years.
So, are there any local superstitions that protect the trees? I know there's you get the faddies in other areas that people think that their ancestors sort of are harbored in the trees, whatever. Is there anything local around there?
The thing about baobabs is they're not very valuable to people as timber or anything
Yeah,
else. So you often find that they're left in places where like everything else is cut. But they are
right.
often sacred sites, as you say, like associated with the ancestors. And the thing you tend to
Yeah,
see is that people wrap this red lamba cloth around the base of the baobabs that are
right.
considered sacred for various reasons. But to my surprise, this baobab wasn't, no red lamba, no little shrine or anything. Yeah, surprised me a bit.
It's I would see it as a bit of a juxtaposition in Madagascar, where you've got a lot of environmental destruction, a lot of burning and losing the forest, but then you also have a lot of people with a really in-depth knowledge of medicinal plants and things like that. And I guess that was their original type of medicine, was just finding stuff from the native plants.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what my friend Angeluc, the local guide there, told me. He said my dadabe, my grandfather, never went to the doctor. He never went to the pharmacy. A single
Mm.
time in his whole life, whatever he needed to get healthy was in the forest.
It's amazing stuff. I actually use something from Madagascar on a regular basis. There's a type of tree, they call it catrafy, and they peel the bark off, and it's really good for muscle pain, for stomach complaints, and they sort of harvest the bark sustainably, and you can buy this bark, and I just bring it back, and you can also get little essential oil from it that you can sort of mix with massage oil, and it's really good. I got some bit of back pain, so I often use this catrafy essential oil on my back.
Yeah, I also use some of these traditional things from Madagascar, and they're amazing.
But you just imagine how many little cures for all sorts of different things. They must have an immense knowledge, these herbalists.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things Angeluc showed me was a tree. He said, "This is my COVID prevention tree." He said, "I guess just
Really?
just based on knowledge he'd gotten from his grandfather and such, they just kind of pieced together that this would be good for preventing COVID." And they take it. I guess the bark. And nobody in his family or community has had COVID yet. I mean, it's extremely
Really?
anecdotal, obviously, but there could well be something to that. It's pretty deep
I mean, there's
knowledge.
sort of, yeah, immune boosting um, plants. Yeah.
Yep. There's been a big controversy in Madagascar about this COVID organics, this Artemisia based herbal thing that has been claimed as a cure for COVID,
Oh, really?
which I think it probably has virtues, but I think that they way oversold it, and there might have been some
Right.
desire to make a lot of money involved there.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a big part of the culture, that's for sure. It comes naturally.
I I wonder with the amount of native forest being reduced and I don't know. Do you think there's young people still out there being taught? Do you think that knowledge is still being passed down to younger people these days?
It's a good question. I suspect in more remote areas it is, because so much of Madagascar
Mm,
is just way off the beaten path still. It's not
yeah.
very urbanized, but I think it's probably slowly being eroded where the more urbanized people are losing that rapidly.
No, it's pretty sad, eh? Really.
It is. It is.
I know a lot of the guides. I mean, there's wonderful local guides throughout Madagascar, and they often have quite a good knowledge of medicinal plants and stuff like that. As part of our tours in Madagascar, we often go to this little botanical garden where they do a really nice guided trip, and they sort of discuss about a lot of the native plants and what their medicinal properties are.
Yeah, such a huge part of the culture here.
Mm.
It's well, I always tell people when somebody gets sick in Madagascar, the first thing you do is you try some herb that like your grandmother gives you. The second thing you do is you go to the homeopharma. There's these homeopharmacies everywhere in Madagascar, which have really good stuff. But it's a little bit more
Yeah, great
commercialized.
place.
The next thing you do,
Yeah.
if you're still not getting better, is you go to the pharmacy. The next thing you
Right.
do is you go see a doctor. And then
It's like way down the list.
way down the list, the absolute last resort is you go to the hospital. And
Oh, it's good. It's when it starts to cost you more money.
it's going to be expensive, and
Mm.
I think often what happens is people are just too far gone by that point.
Right.
But there is something I respect about that is, there's good and bad to it, I guess. But it's so deep in the culture. It's like the go-to thing is just this natural remedies. So yeah, I had a wonderful couple days in the forest, really kind of revitalizing, and it's like you said in Thailand, this is a nice time of year. In Madagascar, this is just the beginning of the rainy season. So everything is the birds are getting vocal and starting to breed. I
Yeah.
think that's why that
Probably
Tatraka was singing,
Yeah,
because it
exactly.
was
I
like
was thinking that.
the first heavy rain of the year, and it's probably a song that it gives, but it basically only gave this within 30 minutes of dawn, and
Right.
never heard it in the evening, so it's just a very brief window in which it sings. But yeah, I had a Pitta Lake ground roller singing, just fantastic. Just I just love all those ground rollers, but it was like my
That's
my
a
annual
beautiful bird.
dose of ground roller. Somehow I've like made me feel right.
Yeah. Ooh, I tell you, I'm getting very itchy feet. I definitely feel like exploring a little bit there. It's funny, having been so many times before, but I think I really miss that, just exploring new places. But there are, it just reminds me that there are a lot of fantastic places still for me to explore in Madagascar.
Absolutely. So that actually is a good segue to something that I should mention to our listeners, which is that I'm going on a family vacation for the next 2 weeks. We're going to be exploring sort of northeastern Madagascar, hopefully going to climb one of the biggest peaks in Madagascar, and
Cool.
maybe see some silky safakas. So we're going up to this national park called
Ooh.
Makodzedze. So that's the plan. And if the plan comes off, we probably won't do a podcast for a week or two. So, but we'll still be here. We'll be back. when I was with Angeluc in the forest, I asked him if I could do a little interview with him to kind of introduce him to our listeners, and so you can actually hear one of these Malagasy local guides, this incredible repository of information. So I'll play that now for folks so you can be introduced to Angeluc. So I'm here with Angeluc Razafy. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, Razafy.
Razafy.
Mm-hmm.
Angeluc
Razafy. That's my email addresses.
Okay, so that's easy. So if you want to contact Angeluc.Razafy if you're looking for a local guide in Amber Mountain. But Angeluc, he lives in a place called Joffreville on Amber Mountain in northern Madagascar. And how long have you been working here?
I've been 30 years for the guide.
30 years.
30 years been a guide.
So he probably knows more about the nature here than almost anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You studied with botanists,
herpetologists, and ornitho as well too. But I know mainly is like as a herpetologist, botanist as well too. That's many times.
Yeah. Angeluc is amazing with plants. We just spent hours yesterday looking at plants, and it's so great to have somebody find plants for you. And so you've been on many expeditions for herpetology, right?
Absolutely.
And how many new species do you think you and your team have found over the 30 years?
It's many species, but it's mainly to bring down my names like two.
So two species have your name?
Yeah.
Is it
my name.
Razafy or Angeluc?
It's Angeluc. One is frogs called the Stumpfia angelicae.
I didn't even know that. Wow.
Oh, right here. You can find it right here. That's the elevation, highest elevation for the Angeluc.
Stumpfia Angeluc?
Yeah, angelicae. The one is the first time is the one of the Maruzesi. Like Fibrosis, Angelium. Yeah, that's brings my name as well too.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you two things have Angeluc's name in the scientific record. But how many species do you think you've described, like with Glau and Ventus and those guys over the years?
That includes like Glau, Ventus, more than 15 species.
More than 15?
Yeah, 15 species.
Wow.
But during the herpetologist expeditions, I can say that like 15 more than 15 species.
50?
Yeah, 50.
Wow. So you've been involved in 60, 70 new amphibians and reptiles being described. No birds yet? No
birds yet.
No mammals?
No mammals. Mammals possibly, but not really.
So can you tell people just a little bit about what's so special about Amber Mountain?
About what?
About Amber Mountain.
Oh, it's Monte d'Ambres. It's... Actually, is 40 kilometers south of Diego. Mm-hmm. One national park friendly in the north of Madagascar, with microclimate and tropical humid. And
so microclimate humid, surrounded by dry areas.
Yeah, dry areas. On the west side is dry, and the east side is humid. About the species, it's now Monte d'Ambres is the richest endemicity like chameleon and Rhoplatus, leaf-tailed geckos, Madagascar. Most species friendly here is endemic.
Is it the capital for chameleons now?
Oh yes,
really?
Yes.
Because of all the Bruchesia.
They have like 30 species right here. Yeah,
it's amazing.
Hottest places for America. Also the leaf-tailed gecko.
There's 7 now, 8 leaf-tailed gecko.
It's about roughly is about eight, probably 8.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All in one forest.
Absolutely. And the bird species also, lots of things like Permanent rock thrush.
Yeah, endemic
species too.
See, every time I spend time with Angeluc, I learn something new. Many things. It's always a pleasure. Well, anything else you want to tell people about Amber Mountain or about Madagascar? People listen to this show all around the world.
Well, if you want to come, just don't.
Yeah, we need people to come, eh?
Yeah, of course.
Yesterday we saw many trees being cut, palisander trees in the national park.
Yeah.
It's a bit sad.
It's a little bit.
You need tourists coming to keep these places preserved.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Well, thanks for talking, Angeluc. Appreciate it.
No problem.
I'll see you in November. We'll make a plan.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. In November.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I hope folks enjoyed hearing Angeluc have a little chat. I'm just always really humbled by these guys in Madagascar. they are so full of knowledge. You know, they're not making big salaries. People with this level of knowledge in the States would be, tenured professors at prestigious universities, and these guys are just living in very simple houses with no electricity, next to the forest somewhere, and it's just always a real privilege to work with them or just to go for a hike with them. So yeah, I wanted to bring Angeluc to you guys, and I guess a natural sound for this week will be the undescribed, as far as I know, song of the spectacled Tatraka from Amber Mountain, which I recorded just a couple days ago. It's not a particularly spectacular song, but hopefully in the context you'll enjoy this natural sound. And
looking forward to it.
we'll catch you guys probably in November at some point, or maybe we'll manage to slip in an episode in late October.
Cool.
So thanks for listening. Catch you next time.
Catch you next time.